Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Jalen. We're doing our LSU baseball preview. They're going to be taking on Omaha this upcoming week, and we're also going to be talking about LSU softball and their great weekend. They had a couple of top 25 wins for LSU softball. LSU women's basketball, Kim Mulkey's on a Coach of the Year award watch list, so that's something to kind of like look at and see here. She's been named to one of those, and we're just going to kind of wrap up LSU men's basketball as we get through the end of college basketball season for them. Without further ado, how you doing today, Jalen?
Hey, I'm doing well, Chief. Doing well. Hey, Tiger Nation. When you're looking at baseball, softball, women's basketball, every sport right now that's in play is doing great, except for maybe one. But Chief, I know we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that momentarily, very soon here. So let's talk about this a little bit here, Jalen, as we go deeper into we have a dual sport scenario going on here with, it's basketball and baseball season at the same time. They always overlap each other. Basketball does overlap football season, but usually does take a back seat to college football season when we talk about them. But, baseball season around here is very important here. So let's get down into it here. LSU coming off a big win against Omaha this past week here. Purdue Fort Wayne. They only allowed 2 runs through 3 games, which is very impressive here. If you want to add on, they beat Southern in 7 innings, 13-1 in the midweek game here. LSU looked extremely well. 14-0 win on Friday. Saturday went back with 10-1. But like I said before, when we talked about the Cajuns on the other podcasts, this is way too early to say that LSU is a bona fide great team so far this year, even though they're ranked number 2 in the country. Whenever you go look at all this stuff here, it's a lot to work on. LSU did give up 5 hits in one game. They gave 1 run. There's always room for improvement there. As Southern did score like 10 runs against Grambling. I think during what day it was, but y'all understand. Y'all can look up. It's like 20-10. I think Grambling ended up winning that one. Southern, they're 2-2. They ended up being 2-2 after the game. LSU ended up beating them. LSU's 4-0 going against Omaha. Omaha is 1-3 on the season so far. But like I said, we're not going to talk about RPI too much here because it's way too early in the season. Like Omaha's got an RPI of 9. So, it's easily going to be LSU's, except with the exception of Purdue Fort Wayne, their highest RPI team. So far in the season, but it's so young, the numbers don't make sense right now. So they will eventually get there. We need more games into RPI for the metric to make sense for us to start talking about that stuff when we get involved in the NCAA tournament, and that's when that number is going to be really important. But we'll just touch on that there. If you really like following the numbers and stuff, I'll give you these stats here a little bit here. LSU's got an RPI. When you look at it there, and their strength of schedule right now is 111th in the country. That number is going to go down, the strength of schedule 1, which is good for LSU because it'd be, tougher competition once they get to SEC play, which is LSU's non-conference schedule is really simple and easy here. They got Nichols. They got number 20 Dallas Baptist, which they have a pretty good team usually. Then they go to the Frisco Class and take on Kansas State, Nebraska, and Sam Houston State. Nebraska is number 23 in the country. And their first SEC series is not until March when they take on Missouri. Then they got Texas, the series after that. They got a midweek game against Louisiana. Then a 3-game series against Mississippi State. Then they got Oklahoma, Auburn, and Alabama. None of these teams are ranked yet. And then Tennessee, A&M. That's really the meat of their schedule. Arkansas. Them 3 series right there are really the meat of those schedules there. So that is something to look at here. So Jalen, when you look ahead to Omaha, what is something you like to see out of the Tigers this upcoming weekend?
Well, I like to see them actually get to Omaha, but we're too early in the season, though, Chief. Let's not make those jokes too early. But no, in all seriousness, though, to prepare for team, and I know they're supposed to prepare for a Nichols. That was supposed to be the game, but it got canceled due to weather and everything. So hey, Omaha's up next. They're coming with a series taking on them at the box. Hey, I think the way this Tigers team is playing right now, Chief, they're playing great. I know, like you said, it's the season just cranked up. I know Purdue Fort Wayne probably wasn't the biggest competition, but hey, they haven't played baseball a game actually in months. And like you said, they only gave up 2 runs in 3 games, and then you gave up 1 run against Southern I mean, they scored 13. I think the team's playing great so far. Stephen Milam, I mean, he's back. You thinking about names like that? It's just hitters on the team. And hey, we want to see what this team can do with the post Paul Skeens era. So I think they're out to a great start.
Yeah, I think they are as well. Pitching seems to be doing really well. They had 3 pitchers ranked in the top 100 in D1 baseball. So when you look at it from that perspective there and what the preseason expectation is for LSU baseball, they seem like they check off all the boxes here. Like this should be an Omaha team compared to the metrics of what D1 baseball has ranked them and then being comparatively ranked there. So they should be in the thick of it. Key word, key phrase in there is should be. Baseball is one of those weird sports where, and it's all about momentum. It's about getting hot at the right time and able to put it all together at the end here. But, they know how to win this under Jay Johnson. They have won a title before, not last year, but the year before with Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz. Bear Jones looks like he's, did very well this opening weekend against Purdue Fort Wayne. I keep wanting to say Omaha because I'm thinking about Omaha on the series, but y'all understand here. I think LSU in the 3 deep, I think they're pretty good at pitching so far. There's not a lot of sample size when you get down to talking about LSU's pitching so far here because we haven't really had a chance to really see them against high quality competition as we're going to get when we get into SEC play when they start taking on teams like we had mentioned before, A&M, Tennessee, and these higher caliber teams that the peers that you play against here on the road to Omaha. So that is something we're going to have to see here and how to do in a real game situation, whereas it's not, a scrimmage or anything like that. Like, how do you adapt whenever you're in a game time situation and when the pressure's really on? Are you going to bend or are you going to break? That's what it comes down to whenever you get on these road to Omaha here. And we've seen it when LSU played in Omaha, the key throw from first base to home. That basically saved their season against Wake Forest 2 seasons ago when they won that national championship. So that is something that you have to look at here. And that was a moment right there that they're going to have. You're going to have that moment to win a championship. We all know that it's luck. Sometimes winning a championship requires luck. That ball bounces a certain way, and it's got to be picked up there. That's something that LSU is going to have to figure out when we get down to it here. But I think this series against Omaha, I think Tigers sweep them, though, honestly. Like I know I mentioned the RPI of 9. That's not going to be crazy to even think about that. Then they got Nichols on midweek game. They probably will beat Nichols as well. I think 4-0 is definitely very, very realistic. I say about 80% chance of that happening here, unless they just have one bad night or whatever. Then they got Dallas Baptist on that Wednesday there. They're number 20. That's going to be their first competition. That's going to be higher level competition. That's definitely one that's going to test them a little bit more, even though it's a midweek game. I don't really take too much into midweek games, but this is something that you see how well you do against outer conference play. Dallas Baptist being number 20 in the country is something to look forward to when they go travel on the road to Arlington, Texas to take on the Energy Bank College Baseball Series in Arlington. So they play them and they win that one. I think they'll have a pretty good, solid ball club all the way around when we get down to that. What do you think, Jalen, about their upcoming series against Omaha and games against Nichols and number 20 Dallas Baptist?
Yeah, it's going to be some great games. I imagine them having a clean sweep of Omaha. Nichols, I think that it's a great to go against the in-state opponent right there at the box too. Great atmosphere is going to be. I think they're going to beat Nichols, but that Dallas Baptist is very interesting because I wouldn't sleep on a team like that, especially so far early this season. They can, and it's in Arlington. I mean, hey, anything could happen. I think LSU's still going to come out with the win, but I think that'll be the biggest test for them so far this season until they get to the Kansas State of the world and then Nebraska, who's also ranked 2. So that's going to be a good one.
What you think of the pitching of LSU so far this year? How you think their relievers and stuff coming off the bench to fill in their starting pitchers, their middle relievers, and their closing pitchers?
I think it's been great so far. I think Coach Jay Johnson has done a great job, but it's so far. And like I say, still He's still trying to figure the things out. It is they only play Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Southern, so I understand that could change. People can get flopped around, especially when it comes to your when it comes to relieving duties. But so far, it's working. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So keep it the keep. I say keep the rotation the way it's going, and see what happens in the next game against Omaha.
Yeah, I think at this point in the season, you can for sure. They have a very weak non-conference schedule, so they can play around with this lineup and get guys some batting time and some batting experience before they go take on like these bigger SEC, the SEC opponents for sure. By the time they get in there, like you can experiment with your lineup, and that is something that I expect Jay Johnson to do. I mean, he's been doing this very, very long time, and he's had great where he's been basically. So, with that regard, there, it's going to be very nice for LSU. I think they're going to be looking pretty good when they get down to it here. And I'm making big things about it out of them this year. I think it's going to be I think that's something that we're going to have to look at and see what's going to happen in regards to that itself there. Uh, so you got them. We kind of got them all like winning these games here, and it should like I need to see more before I go crown LSU national champions before on the field at least. Yeah, I think it's way too premature to say they're going to win national championship right now. That's not me being a hater or anything. That's just me, just looking at the data and just looking at compartmentalizing this season so young that it's really hard to say that this is the team to beat right now or this team is already in the top five because honestly I wish they got rid of preseason polls because I think it does lead to some bias like, oh yeah, they beat number 5, so and so at on the February series of whatever, and that team could be straight up garbage. Basically, we've seen it happen before, and that's just the way it is. I do wish they would get rid of preseason polls because in every sport, football, basketball, baseball, you name it, because I just don't think it really gives that you have to have opportunity to earn being ranked. But how many times we go watch football season and there's a team that just dropped out of it? They're way too high to be ranked there. It's almost like you have to buy to get in them top 25 rankings anyway at some point here. That's like then when they rate new cars and stuff for reliable, like like this car is rated number 1 for reliability for the 2025 model year. They ain't even drove the lot yet. How you gonna rank a new car on reliability when they ain't even seen the pavement of the road yet? So like, look, that's what I'm talking about. That's literally the same thing as preseason rankings. That's basically the same thing here if you want to have a real world standard. But anyway, let's go jump ahead here to LSU softball here. LSU softball had a really good weekend to say the least here. 4 top 25 wins this week here. Let me see who they got. They got a multitude here. So they got Penn State, Southern Miss, and Nichols down here. Thing LSU Invitational because I'm like, what am I doing? I'm put LSU softball Invitational right here. Let me pull that up real quick here. Invitational. Did I spell that right? I definitely didn't spell that right. Too many eyes in that one. Too many eyes, Chief. Too many eyes. We're riding too much here. LSU softball Invitational. There you go. Let me see. Where did it go? It was right there. Let me see. It's getting away from me a little bit here. I just had it. Did it save? There it is. It's blending in with all the other tags we have. Okay, so LSU softball Invitational here for this season here. Penn State coming to town, Southern Miss and the Southern Miss each have the same record. They're 3-7 here. But before we get in there, we got to talk about what happened this past weekend. When I say 4 top 25 wins, they beat UTA to start off. UTA is 4-7, so that there's 6-0 win there. Then number 21 Northwestern, they got 2 wins out of them. They played them on Friday night, and they played them on Saturday. In the afternoon, Tigers won 7-1 the first game, and then they blasted Northwestern out of the park with an 8-0 win in 5 innings. Virginia Tech, being ranked number 18, came in 8-2. Tigers blasted them away 7-2 in the first game. In the second game, they beat them 7-4. So these are great wins for LSU softball. This looks like a really good team here. LSU right now is currently ranked number 6 in RPI, 10-0 record right now. And their strength schedule is 41, non-conference 44. looking pretty solid right here because they got. I want to see them win. Is against number 4 UCLA coming up on February 27th when we get down to that point there. But you got to get through these 5 games here before you get to that one. So Penn State, Southern Miss, and Nichols here. Nichols has the best record of all these teams in the LSU Invitational besides LSU. Jalen, what you think about these next 5 games coming up for the Tigers?
Man, this Tiger softball team, Chief, is just proving that they can beat these teams. I mean, getting all those top wins and essentially in a week span, that's great to start the year off. This team is still undefeated, keep going in the year. I think when you get to these next few games, especially with starting off coming up soon against Penn State, and then you got Southern Miss, who both of those games are the same day. Then you got Southern Miss again. Then it's going to be a stretch of games, but I think these Tigers will come out and win all of these games and add some more to the resume. But hey, like you said, Chief, that big game, and it's not here yet. We got to wait another week. But against UCLA, I mean, I think the Tigers will win all their games heading up to this matchup against UCLA, which is going to take place in California. But hey, that could be the game of the year right there in February. So we have to wait and see.
Yeah, we sure enough are gonna have to wait and see how that goes down here. LSU's had great pitching so far this year. That is something that I'm looking forward to this because Tarina, been under a lot of scrutiny by LSU fans, and some of it's warranted, some of it's unwarranted here. It's just one of those things. It's tough. It's one of those that you just got to figure out and do what you got to do here. The Tigers, if you go look at these games here, look at the score, you're like, dang, they're doing really good here. Well, that's 6 hits. The one against Northwestern, they had 12 hits, so that was very good here. But a lot of these teams have been making errors. You look at this whole series, with those games that were played, they all made 1 or 2 errors, which really, doesn't help you when you're making errors. Like Virginia Tech, the last game, had 3 errors. LSU made 1 error. They ended up scoring 2 runs in the 7th, but, it's just one of those things here. And then they had 1 error again, Virginia Tech, in that Saturday game. So, they're giving LSU errors to, attack them. It's like leaving yourself defenseless against the person that's about to attack you or whatever. Whenever you're in those situations there, you look at the whole entire, season. LSU's they made 1 error. This is the Tiger Classic that I'm talking about here. They made their first game that had no errors. They had a perfect game basically. A perfect game in that first game of the season. So that always draws headlines and stuff. So Charlotte, 1 error in their second game. Second game. And then Central Arkansas, they had no errors there. Central Arkansas, LSU had an error, but that walking off against Southeastern there. Southeastern had 2 errors. In a close game situation like that, those errors can come into play and can tip the game against you. So that's something that I want to see, the Tigers do. They have 1 and 0, 0, 0. Look at the errors for the season. That's 2, 3, 4. They've had 4 errors in their last 10 games, which isn't a lot in baseball, softball. Excuse me. But anyway, they look like they're in really good shape here. And that is something we're going to have to look at when we get down to it here. Because, when you start playing these tougher teams, it's going to be these errors could be tipping points for them to end up beating you in that regard there. So, Jalen, what do you want to see out of LSU softball moving forward?
I want to see them then continue because I know, like you said, Beth Tarina her name has been swirling around saying how she shouldn't be coaching anymore of LSU softball. That's been going on for the last couple of years. They're off to a great start this year. I want to see them keep putting up these big numbers where you're looking at 10 runs against Central Arkansas, 10 runs against Charlotte. Keep getting those because they got some hitters on this team that you haven't had in the past, the last couple of years. So I think if you continue to hit the ball, go along with great pitching, hey, the defense is gonna be there. So just keep it going.
Sydney Bearzon, being the great pitcher she is, she's only allowing 1.17 ERA, 4-0 in the circle so far. that is that's really good numbers when you look at it here. Um, that that is something to see there. And you know, Jaden he Heavener, 1.05 ERA, doing a great job in the circle there. So as far as batting goes, Danica Coffee hitting over 500, Macy Bergeron hitting over 500, Jane Lano hitting over 500 as well whenever she gets in the play. They have three players hitting over 500 right now. And if you want to go drop the metrics a little bit lower here, well, Sydney Peterson's hitting perfect at one point. You know, the one over, but she only has one at bat on the year so far. So, like looking at people that had over 10 at bats here for LSU, they have four players hitting over 400 right now, and the rest are hitting about three like 375. Sierra Daniel, Savannah Bebel, she only had six at bats so far. Avery Hodge, Maddox McKee, they've all had like several at bats there. What they're only hitting like 292 to 310 right there in that range there. So those bad bats I got to get better because you're not playing against like top tier competition, but you did play against the top 24, top 25 teams. So um, opponents are only hitting 153 against LSU so far in the first 10 games. So far, LSU's hitting 377 as a team, which is very high for a softball team. 400 is where you want to be in your sweet spot, if I would say, if anything there. But that is something to look at here. Um, it's just one of those things, like what you're gonna see whenever you get down to it here. Like the on base percentage is really a big one too here. Like Danica Coffey, Macy Bergeron, they over 600 on base percentage. Jane Lano at 529, Tori Edwards 457. So getting on base is important as far as I can see here. As far as you can see in softball and baseball, more you get on base, more chance you have to score, which is very relevant in this amount of points that LSU has scored. They're good at getting on base. They got very good plate discipline, and I'm very excited to see what LSU softball is going to do for the rest of this 2025 season. So, with that being done, let's get back down to talking about LSU women's basketball here. They only have 4 games left here, coming off a loss against Texas. They do have Georgia on Thursday, Sunday Kentucky, next Thursday Alabama, number 2 Ole Miss here. So they got 2 top 25 teams left. I think they'll beat Georgia, Jalen. The Kentucky and Alabama, I think they'll win those here because their only losses are to a number 6 South Carolina and a number 2 Texas. So, I mean, betting odds would be they would win out and be there. Let's look at the predicted results here and just see. Right now, LSU is projected to be a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Before we get to that, though, Jalen, how do you think this weekend for LSU softball is going to come out to be? I think they'll win all these games in the LSU Invitational this week.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think they're going to win the rest of the games throughout this invitational. And hey, like you said, come up to that big matchup against UCLA the following week.
So, what you think about the LSU women's basketball, the last 4 games of the year?
They've had a great year. It came up a little short against the Texas team, but guess what? They're going to come back, get revenge, and get like literally beat this Georgia team. I see them in they can add another top 25 win when they beat Kentucky a couple of days after that. Then you have Alabama, Ole Miss, and then hey, the SEC tournament. I think they're going to end the season off strong. They're going to win the rest of their games, enter the SEC tournament, and hey, I don't want to give predictions yet at the SEC tournament because you know how that goes. When you do great in the regular season, the tournament is a whole different ball game.
Yeah. So look, Texas. I did get a chance to watch some of the Texas game, and they played very well. Anisha Morrow dominated the boards. Offensive rebounding was superb in that first half for her. I think she had over let me make sure I got my numbers right here. She dominated the glass. LSU 14 had 16 offensive rebounds, 28 defensive rebounds. Texas came along strong in that second half here. They didn't give me all the. That's weird. Okay, so They didn't give me any third and fourth quarter stuff, but when you got down to the fourth quarter there, the problem was LSU fell apart in the fourth. They just couldn't finish. And that is one thing I've seen in the South Carolina game. I've seen it in the Texas game where they don't close when they get more physical teams against them. Texas is physical. South Carolina, we both know, is physical. They have been for years.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen, like, is this a worrying point for LSU? With them collapsing late against these more physical teams? Is it just a conditioning issue that they are having possibly?
No, I wouldn't even say that. I'd say like it's just going against the South Carolina team. I mean, when you saw what UConn did to South Carolina the other night, but then again, that is Connecticut. But looking at this LSU team, no, I think LSU still has a pretty physical team. I mean, you got like I said, Anissa Morrow. You talked about Samaya Smith, who's back from injury from last year. Like those two are great players on the inside in the front court, and you can't forget about you get the best player on the. I would say the leader of the team, Flajay Johnson, who was a freshman when she played won a national championship. So Annie and Michaela Williams, she was great as a freshman last year, great scorer. The LSU has the pieces. I think this is just This is really a wake up call against Texas because Texas is one of the best teams in the nation. I think moving forward, this loss would only make LSU a better team along the way because you gotta take an L every now and then. I feel like to see what you did wrong against the team because you win all the time, it's hard to make adjustments. So I think them taking this loss against Texas is just an eye opener for them, but I don't think it's going to impact them moving forward, especially with the SEC tournament coming up.
Well, I mean, Texas outscored LSU 21-9 in the fourth period. That is something that, like I would be worried about for sure. But the difference in the game, if you look at all the stats in that Texas game, it was free throws. Free throws was the biggest one. Texas was perfect from the free throw line, 21-21. LSU was 13-19. From the floor, they both shot equal. LSU was in the 2-point range, and LSU made one more 3-pointer than Texas. LSU won this game. They basically won it. They lost it at the free throw line. That was 6 points there. That 6-point swing, you still would have been short by 1 point there. Because Texas made one more 2-pointer than them, but LSU made a 3-pointer. So the free throws would have kept this, in there. But like LSU, they were 10-10 in the first period. 18 points in the second period. Texas had 9. They were beating Texas 28-19 when we got to half. Third period came, Texas dominated the second half, 25 points in the third and 21 ended up in the fourth. LSU had 21 in the third, ended up got 9 in the fourth period as well. So the collapse was there. If you want to go bring, like I brought back up the South Carolina game, we saw toward the end, they were starting to get like kind of winded a little bit, I would say here, but they've always had one period that like they lose it. So they tied each other in 15-15. Second period, LSU had 11 points in the third period, 18 for South Carolina. In the second period, LSU had 8 points. South Carolina had 12. Like small things like that. And, South Carolina got to the free throw line a lot more in that game than LSU did. LSU had 9 free throw attempts. They had 26. And that was a big difference in that game when they're losing. So I think LSU wins out the rest of their season, though. I just don't see them dropping another game here. The predicted results has them winning all 4 games too. So,
Yeah, I would say the same thing, and it starts with going against Georgia team that's coming up. I think that's going to start this win streak heading for them into the tournament. And the tournament is huge too. I think they need to win that too and get all the momentum.
all right, we're gonna LSU men's basketball. They did come off back here so far. Not looking good. I looked at the odds that they had. I didn't think they had I thought we were 0.0, but the chance though to meme. We have a 0.2 chance of making the round of 6. They actually still got a percentage here. I'm not season's gone. So that big long losing streak that had the SEC really doomed them in. That's really the big difference here. If they would have had like 3 more wins, they would have like it's like built to Ole Miss, and you had that big one from Texas A&M losing all the way up. They beat Oklahoma, beating South Carolina on Tuesday. Then they literally have to win out to keep the 0.2% chance. I do not see this happening. If they would manage to beat Florida, which I doubt they're going to beat Florida. Florida's really
Florida
good.
is really one of the top teams in the nation. It's that's going to be tough, especially. I mean, I know they have a game at home, but you're asking for a lot.
I don't think home field advantage is going to help them against Florida. If they would manage to beat Florida, then they have to go play Tennessee. Now they get both them at home, which helps out a good bit. But I don't think it's enough for them to be like, yeah, they're gonna win both these games here. I got them dropping both these games. I just don't see it. I got them dropping Mississippi State. I got them losing out basically. Because this is their hardest part of their schedule. They got a number 2, number 6, number 21, number 17, number 7, who are all gonna be in the NCAA tournament. So I think they should really start thinking about the SEC tournament right now. Start game planning for that one, and you can kind of figure out who you're going to get because they're probably going to all right, look, and just use this as an experiment. Like literally just start tooling for the SEC tournament because you're going to have to win the tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. So it could happen, but I mean, it's not very likely. I feel like it's going to be there's a 1% chance I think they win the SEC tournament because you're going to play that couple extra games and everybody else the way it all breaks down. But it's really tough. Like just trying to be optimistic about this probably, but you just have to get on a run. Like these next 5 games are like you can experiment. I think here and just figure out how they play, what kind of strategy they play. I mean, play them rough and tough. You want to try to figure out who they're play like, how they're gonna run kind of plays. They analyze all 5 of these teams. A notebook and be like, all right, what did Florida do again? Destroyed us. So when we go in the SEC tournament, here's the blueprint. We have everything written best to. We can't stop it completely, but we can slow them down enough to where it maybe gives us a chance to win this game later on in the tournament. Because right now, this season for LSU basketball, it's over. It is finished, okay? You need to, because the only way you're getting in that NCAA tournament is if you win the SEC tournament. That's your auto bid. That is your golden opportunity. So you look at all the teams that you played so far, and you better have a very good notebook about what they like to do because they're going to do the same thing they did to beat you the first time. What you think,
Yeah.
Jalen?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right there on the number, Chief. Like you say, all these ranked teams, they are going to be in the NCAA tournament, or at least fighting their way to get a top seed in the NCAA tournament at that. And I mean, they honestly, some of them see LSU as a cupcake game. If I was LSU, I would come out there and play my hardest. And hey, like you said, the best thing for them to do right now is prepare for the SEC tournament. Because if they don't win the SEC tournament, their season is over. Like there's no we win these last couple of games and we get bounced out in the tournament. No, you have to win the SEC tournament to get in, and you might as well start planning for it now and strategize against these top teams because these teams, the SEC has top teams in the NCAA tournament every year, and it's not getting any easier to back here. Like I said, starting out with Florida. I mean, Florida, and just think about it too. For them to win the SEC tournament, you got to beat Auburn, you got to beat Alabama. Them two just played each other in a game of the year the other day. So, I mean, it's LSU team, like you said, Chief. You got to prepare for the SEC tournament and see how far you can get.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna have to do here. So I'd like to thank everybody for we're gonna get off here. Thank you for tuning in to this episode here of the Fishbowl Radio. We hope you have a great and wonderful week so far here. So without further ado, we're gonna just get off here. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on all our social media platforms. We just got back on Spreaker. I'm kind of, if y'all don't know what Spreaker is, I'll do a little chit chat with y'all here real quick here. Spreaker was something back in, when did I join Spreaker? When did I get the Fishbowl on Spreaker? Back in 2012. Okay, so this was very long ago, 13 years ago. And so it was in September of 2012, I think. So that was our first platform. it was something we found by accident because the idea was we wanted to make our own podcast or radio show or something like that, and that's how they advertised it. So we signed up for Spreaker, and because they had their own little DJ thing, I didn't have this camera here. Obviously, I didn't have this microphone that I'm wearing right here. You see this little lapel mic, lav mic, whatever you want to call it. So basically it was kind of like what Spotify does for podcasts these days. It's kind of like a platform that you can upload your um, podcast to, and it is owned by our iHeartMedia, which owns iHeartRadio and the other ones there. So back in 2013, Fishbowl Radio was one of the biggest sports shows on Spreaker. We were iHeartRadio Pick of the Month. Okay, we were pulling in. We were always kind of listed in that top 5 ranking list that they had there for sports shows. I think we done several Facebook posts, and then we stayed there from 2015 and 2016, and then Spreaker never got really mainstream, which was unfortunate because I think if we could have helped Spreaker a lot more back in those days, because if we would have pushed ourselves more like we do in the social media part of it now, we probably would have um like our following would have followed us there probably more. But yeah, I was a college student at the time basically. So mistakes there in the past kind of help you think about how you're gonna do things today. But anyway, just looking at that there. And yeah, Spreaker's a great platform. If you have a podcast, I would recommend y'all try them out. They have a lot of cool features. They have their own little app that you can download and listen to shows. Spreaker's got some great, talented guys and women that I've actually met on there and had some chats with them and stuff. And they, several years ago, and they do great work on there. Like I'm really impressed with the quality of podcasts on Spreaker, and that is something that I think it's kind of underground still. Like it hasn't really made the mainstream effect like a Spotify or whatever. Very underground, very effort here. But the Fishbowl, when I log back in, we had 10,000 downloads, so that was very impressive to say the least here, just off of that platform itself here. And I think we had like, was it they had a follower count. I think we had like 5 or 6 thousand followers or something on Spreaker. But yeah, like for a platform that's not really that big. I mean, it's uh compared to like the X's and the Facebook and Instagrams of the world, having that much is a good chunk there when you got such a smaller like user base. So um, they liked our podcast back in the day. So hope they like this new content that we're pushing out here in this new kind of style of like live video, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you like podcasts and you like listening to podcasts, I would recommend downloading Spreaker. They got a lot of great former radio disc jockeys on there and that kind of regard there. So that's my little pitch for Spreaker, my little selling point. So if you like that here and you don't really care for the Spotify's of the world podcasts and you want something that's strictly just not really messing with music too much like Spotify is, I'll give Spreaker a great recommendation here. So thank y'all for tuning in here to this episode here of the Fishbowl Radio. Hope you have a great, wonderful day. Jalen and I is going to see y'all on the flip side. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.